Dude, Awesome Rider here with a little bit more Don Brothers news with another look at Don Onitajin. This time we have a look at the toy version. I was just saying in yesterday's video how I was looking forward to seeing what the toy looked like, and then the very next day it comes out. So we have our first shot of it and kind of this cool poster shot. And honestly, it looks really cool. I talked about my thoughts on the design yesterday, and I was saying how it's not really my cup of tea, and that I really like the the individual modes more. And it's funny because it's kind of reversing this. Design-wise, I still prefer the individual modes, like just looking at the show designs and kind of the general idea of the design. But in terms of the toy, it's kind of reverse, where the individual ones look a little bit more classic mech-like, you know, where they don't quite look as dynamic as in the show. Not that they look bad, and maybe they'll look a little bit better when we see more pictures, but, you know, they look like they're more restricted. Whereas the mecha looks a lot cooler than the regular show design. I mean, it's not like it's a different design, but you know what I mean. The presentation of the toy looks a little cooler to me. In part because it's one of our first fully articulated Sentai mech, which is really unique for your standard mech release, because as you know, since the beginning of time, since before time, Sentai mechs are usually bricks. And every now and then you'll get something like a Soul of Chogokin release or, you know, other types of releases that will have articulation, but usually the main line sticks fairly strict to the block principle. I mean, you'll have some with more articulation than others, some that are more slender than others, but for the most part, I know what to expect when it comes to Sentai Mecha. And this one's actually articulated, and it looks really cool that way. And it's very interesting because, right now with Hasbro, we're starting to get articulated Power Rangers mech. We sort of started to dip our toes into the water with Beast Morphers, but it's become more of a regular thing in the Dino Fury line. I'm kind of curious if that had any influence on it. Obviously, it's different companies, Bandai and Hasbro, but there's still a partnership with Power Rangers and Toei, and I'm curious whether they took a look at what they were doing and thought about that. I think it's just kind of a funny coincidence. But regardless, I'm happy to see it. I think it makes it look a lot cooler, both just in terms of a mecha looking cooler when it's more dynamic and can look more posable, but it makes the design look a lot cooler to me, and I'm going to be interested to see how it compares to the Bandai stuff, or the Hasbro stuff for the articulated mech, because I do like the Dino Fury mech, but it does have its problems sometimes with breaking parts and stuff, and certain little issues, and I'm curious to see how this one feels, because Sentai toys have felt a little bit cheaper in recent years. So I'm really curious to compare those two. Maybe I'll even include that in the review to a certain extent. But I really like the design a lot better in this. At its core, the design still isn't my favorite, but for whatever reason, I think it looks a lot better in the toy form. I think maybe because the colors aren't so in your face, and there's some stuff to break up the colors a little bit more the way it's posed, whereas the other one I feel was just a little bit too loud and all together. It's kind of funny because it's the reverse situation of what usually happens, because more often than not, when we get our first look at the mecha, we usually see it first as a toy, since the toy catalogs leak first, and then you're usually like, yeah, that's okay, or whatever, and then you'll see the scans, and it'll be like, oh, the in-show suit looks a lot better. And in this case, it was the reverse, where we kind of saw a more in-show approximation, and then we saw the toy after, and the toy actually looked better. It kind of depends, but I thought it was kind of a funny inverse situation. I get a feeling like usual, even when it's a design I don't care for so much, it'll grow on me when I see it in the show, but there is the added element of it probably being CG, so I'll definitely be curious to see how I feel about it once we get more pictures. You know, I'm sure we'll have some pictures advertising it for the show and scans, but also when we actually see it in action to see what the difference is between the toy and the first picture we got, and maybe the happy medium of it looking better. But as it stands right now, I'm actually fairly excited for this. I feel like it's a while since I got a Sentai Mecha. Even though the design's not my favorite, I like the look of this better. I like the individuals, and I'm looking forward to getting my hands on it to take a look at it. I believe it comes out next month. And as I said, too, I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what other mecha are going to roll out as the year goes on. But what do you guys think of the toy? Which look did you prefer? The live-action look or the toy look? Are you going to be picking this up? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps to ring that bell. See notifications for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.